Welcome to the Sprint 4 demo of the Spring 2022 Pod Reshare Workcycle. My name is Corey Lown, and I'm a developer on the Access team at Stanford and tech lead for this workcycle. I'm joined today by the rest of the development team, including developer colleagues at Harvard who joined us for this sprint. In this video, we're going to demonstrate the work we completed during our fourth sprint. Pod Aggregator is an open source system to aggregate MARC bibliographic and holdings data for institutions that participate in the Pod initiative. Our goals are to bring Pod to production, improve the user interface, refine the data contribution and consumption experience, and build out functionality needed for Pod Aggregator to serve as a data source for Project Reshare. During the sprint, we made user interface improvements, fixed a variety of bugs, and began implementing the OAI PMH service. Now I'll hand things over to Marlo to demonstrate some of the changes we've made during this sprint.
So with our last work cycle on distinguishing data providers versus organizations that are only consumers, we were ready to surface that distinction in the user interface. And now the providers page only correctly shows providers. Another UI improvement we made was just kind of a small functional change. There was an issue we had where when you submitted a form to update update organization details, upon submitting the form, you were redirected to the homepage for the organization instead of remaining on the same page. So we made a change in the UI to keep you on the same page. One big project that we undertook during this work cycle was to do a really thorough review of all the roles and permissions in the application. Prior to this sprint, we had a spreadsheet compiled outlining all of the desired permissions and roles, but after several sprints of development, we needed to review this document and fix any discrepancies that had evolved. A lot of this work was behind the scenes and essentially involved careful testing of the roles, but we did write new tests that were added to the code base, and we also fixed some issues and clarified expectations through some group discussions. We fixed an issue where users were showing up twice if their role had been changed. In this interface here, you can see that you have the option to change an organization user to an owner. And when this was being done, the name of the user was appearing as a duplicate in two separate rows. So we fixed that issue and some other information in the app that was duplicated due to the same kind of underlying issue. And another permissions related thing we fixed was that previously the ability to destroy an organization, which is a pretty powerful action, was allowed for organization owners, and we took that ability away and left it only for pod admins of the site. So the final UI change that I'll highlight just is a pretty simple addition of a link here back to the provider homepage. Previously, there was no link back to the provider home from the upload page, and there was also no link back to home from some of the pages within the organization management tabs. So we added that link, which will hopefully make for a better experience.
My name is Katie Amaral, and I am from the Harvard team. I'm going to show some UI updates that were worked on during this sprint. So the first one I'm going to show is just a small update to the uploaded files status icons, just a little bit more descriptive text there. Another update was making the date time formats consistent across the application. So anywhere in the UI that it displays a date, now display in this consistent format. And also there is a client-side method that detects the user's local time zone, and it will display the time in the local time zone. So in my case, I'm in Eastern Daylight Time, so it's showing that. And if you're in Pacific, it'll show it in the Pacific time. And this essentially just takes the date that's stored in the database in UTC time and displays it as the user's local time. And there's also a reusable helper method that allows us to make adjustments to this display format if we ever want to change it, and then it'll automatically be propagated to all the different areas in the application. So we only have to make the change in one place. All right. Another change that was made was an update to the email text. That was just adding some additional instructions there. And also another update was fixing the main menu. This was in addition to the fix that happened last sprint, but there were some inconsistencies with the main menu display across different browsers. There was an issue with the main menu display in Safari, and that has been fixed now. So it'll display consistently across all different types of browsers.
We have a MARC analysis page that shows details about the MARC data submitted to POD. Because this page can be slow to load, we've added a yellow bar that at the top of the page that indicates that the page is loading. We also made changes to the user menu available in the navigation bar. From this menu, you can get to the organization's homepage in POD and to the edit profile page for the user account. If you are a POD admin or an organization owner, you can also get to the manage organization page from this menu. During this work cycle, we made changes to the contact email field for each organization. This is now a single valued field that can be edited from the organization details tab of the manage organization page. While this field is not required, we encourage all organizations to provide a contact email for their organization in case pod admins or data harvesters need to get in touch. We also fixed some issues around the email confirmation process, ensuring that only one confirmation email is sent and that a message that the confirmation email was successful appears in the user interface when the confirmation link is used. We continue to make refinements to the data processing logic. We've made additional improvements to how deletes are identified so that MARC XML style deletes are less likely to be interpreted incorrectly as plain text style deletes. We also now better handle cases where submitted files don't contain any records. We received a report from a data contributor that new streams were being created in their organization unexpectedly. During the investigation, we found that making a make default API request for the currently default stream would make the default stream no longer the default. This could result in new streams being created unexpectedly when submitting data. Now, if you send a make default API request to the default stream, no change is made. And now I'm going to turn things over to Doug to talk about interstream deltas.
All right, I'm going to be demonstrating the new job for calculating interstream deltas. This job calculates the difference between a current default stream's full dump and the final state of the previous default stream, resulting in MARC and MARC XML files for new and updated records, along with a list of file IDs for deleted records. This will enable consumers who are harvesting to bridge the gap from one stream to the next if an organization's default stream is changed without having to pull down a full dump of records. So in order to run this calculation, first we have the current default stream. We have uploaded one file to it. So I'm just going to navigate to the previous default stream to take a quick look. As you can see, we've uploaded all these files to it. This stream currently contains a full dump and then two sets of deltas that were generated from this upload and this upload. So I'm going to switch over to my console now. And so right now there's some ongoing discussion as to when this job will need to be run, but currently it does need to be kicked off manually. So I am going to switch over to the Rails console. And this delta should have attachments of a MARC XML, MARC 21, and a deletes file. So just taking a quick look. It's a little tricky to read in the console, but we can take a look at the MARC XML file. And this represents the new and updated records from the two streams I just showed you. So these would either be added or updated depending on which is the case for the individual record. There are 3 of them. And we can also do the same with the deletes, and it should have a list of IDs that were no longer present in the second stream. So as you can see, there are 4 that were present in the second stream that were not present in the second stream that were present in the first. So they were recorded as deletes.
Hey, I'm Nick, a developer on the Access team at Stanford. During this sprint, we made progress on implementing a new API for the pod aggregator. This is the Open Archives Initiative Protocol for Metadata Harvesting, or OAI PMH, which is the API that will be used by Index Data to power the new implementation of the Borrow Direct service. The OAI PMH specifies 6 core request types that a client can make, known as verbs. As of this sprint, the pod aggregator now supports several verbs, including the ability to identify itself to an OAI PMH client with detailed information, and the ability to query what sets of items are available. Each organization's records are organized into a set so that they can be requested separately by the client. Sets of records are delivered in the mark XML format and can be queried using date range filters. Right now, we're working on an implementation that can deliver tens to hundreds of thousands of records in a paged form that supports resuming requests using tokens, which is a core feature of the OAI PMH. You can expect more news about this API in the next demo video.
Thanks for watching this demonstration of the work we've completed during Sprint 4 of the Pod Reshare Workcycle. We look forward to showing you what we accomplished during Sprint 5.